Hi, my name is Jamie Mesquite, and I studied abroad in Nanjing, China last fall. I chose Nanjing because I wanted something different. I'd been to Beijing before, and I really enjoyed it. But I felt like I wanted to go somewhere where I hadn't seen, and they had an intensive language program there. And I was the only person from U of O going, and they kind of explained that it'd be a real like hard-hitting experience, if that makes sense. Once I got there, I realized everybody else in my program had been taking Chinese for a lot longer than me, which made me really uneasy and just sort of feel like below the curve, which is just like a horrible feeling when you're already just trying to like get acclimated to like such a different culture. So I had a really hard time at first. I was in contact with like study abroad representatives and stuff, trying to figure out what I was going to do and whether or not I could handle it, and ultimately just decided that I was going to stay and stick through it. But the first, I'd say, month was definitely really hard. So what happened is because like I said, it was an intensive language program and it was incredibly vigorous. After about a month, my Chinese improved drastically. The Chinese people are they're very sweet, they're very good people, they're very nice to foreigners. I always felt very respected. But if you go up to a stand and you're asking for something to eat, they think it's funny if you can't speak correctly. So for me, I took this offensively just because I was already felt so down by myself. So if I'd like the first time be like, okay, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna get food by myself, and I'd try and talk to them, and like my tone would be wrong because there's 4 separate tones, and I'd have all the words right, but the tones were wrong. So then they'd laugh because I wasn't making sense to them. And anyway, so it was great because once I finally was able to kind of get past that and realize that they weren't laughing at me because they're not trying to be rude. I felt safer. I'm from San Francisco, and I felt safer, I would say, walking down the street in Nanjing by myself, be it day or night, than I do in San Francisco. And I think the reason for that mainly is because the communist government doesn't allow guns or knives or violent, there's very few like murders like there are here. It doesn't happen like that there because they're so in control of like the people. So in a sense, I felt safe and I felt protected. There's a huge amount of privacy that is being invaded, I guess you could say, in the sense that regarding what you're looking at on the internet or your emails or whatever you're doing, it's constantly being monitored. So there's literally somebody someplace in China who's reading everything that you're doing. And that for me was pretty hard to get used to. So I just generally try not to think about it. The Chinese are very worried about their reputation, how they look to us, because they love Americans and they want to be, so they're just, I would constantly be asked, what do you think of China? Do you like China? Like, how are you doing here? Just because they're so preoccupied with the fact that, like, if I don't like China, I'll come back and it'll be like bad PR for them. There's definitely a difference within family values. I didn't live with a host family. I lived with a Chinese roommate, which was really nice because she was my age. We ended up getting along really well. She wanted to take me home to visit her family, and she lived with her mom and her dad and her grandmother. And they were like very wealthy by Chinese standards, and her parents were part of the party. All of the Chinese roommates were, because again, like the influence of like the Chinese students on the American students, they wanted to keep things very like pro-communism and pro what they're doing there. One thing that was very, very different than here in the U.S. is, like I said, they were a wealthy family, and they didn't have showers. They had showers, but they didn't have hot water unless it was the summertime, and they would get like the solar-powered hot water because apparently it was really expensive. So they would go to like a public bath where everyone would shower. And the first night when we got there, it had been pouring. We didn't have an umbrella, and we were waiting for her mom to pick us up. And we just got completely drenched, and we went straight to the public bath, and it was just kind of like one of those awkward moments when they're like, okay, well, we all go in with the language barrier too, like we all go in here and bathe naked, and how do you kind of like looking at me like what am and then I was like, I don't know, kind of uncomfortable. And then my Chinese roommate was like, well, it was like a hotel too, so she was like, we'll give you a room. So they just put me in this random room by myself to take a shower, and they all like went in the other room together, and it was just like all of a sudden I was like, wow, this is a great culture shock. You know, this is so different from the US. I don't know anyone who doesn't have hot water. One thing that I just really enjoyed that I think that we lack here is family and friends coming together to eat. They're very much about sharing, like compared to when we go out and we order something, usually you order something for yourself, you know, you don't share with anybody else. One of the reasons why I probably wouldn't live in Nanjing again for any extended period of time is because just like simple hygiene things. For instance, one time I was at this little like, you know, hut restaurant thing, and they're all kind of like that. And I was with a friend, and we sat down and we ordered some noodles and we were eating them, and this like cute little Chinese boy came up and was kind of like looking at us and smiling, and then he just turned around and took down his pants and went number 2 right next to us. So, you know, I mean, we kind of had to just like turn and pretend like it wasn't happening. Beijing, especially just because of the Olympics, like in terms of the pollution, they've just cleaned it up so much, and they just, I think for the Chinese, they think that when people are coming from abroad, they're going to be going to Beijing or like Shanghai, the bigger cities that have something to say for themselves. And so they put a lot of effort into making sure that they're like masking the third world-esque that China still has.